But guys, the reason we stopped here is for the victory column is mostly an older history. It goes back to these German wars of unification that took Germany from being a number of smaller states up to being an empire in 1871. So led by Prussia, initially Prussia and Austria, and then just Prussia. Prussia being the kingdom that occupied North Germany here, with its capital in Berlin. They fought against Denmark in 1864, against Austria in 1866. These are all big nationalistic causes, and then finally against France in 1871, or in 1870 in the Franco-Prussian War. But in 1871, Germany is declared an empire. The King of Prussia was crowned German Emperor in Versailles, just outside of Paris. And this structure was built in 1874 to commemorate those victories. But it originally stood in front of the Reichstag building, our next stop. It was moved here under orders from Hitler as part of his grand plan to rebuild Berlin after the war. It was going to have this massive north-south, east-west axis. It was meant to imitate Paris in some senses, but this was meant to be, much larger, much grander than Paris. He was going to build a triumphal arch that the Arc de Triomphe in France could fit into the centre of comfortably, was the idea, that the German triumphal arch here would be so big. And the idea this would be one of the features then along that north-south, east-west running axis. It would be roughly on the intersection of the two axes. And the reason he chose this memorial out of all the other things in Berlin at the time to become part of the centerpiece of his new Grand Plan Berlin was because, like I've been saying, he wanted to link himself back into these previous glorious periods. Hitler wanted to see his empire as a continuation of Germany's previous glorious periods, the First and Second Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, and the German Empire will be continued through Hitler's empire as well. Hitler in fact added a fourth section to it. Originally just did these three sections, the first three gold rings, and those gold things up in it are actually gold-plated cannons captured from those wars. And the fourth section with the ribbons hanging were added by Hitler. Now the actual intention was just to increase the overall height of the victory column, because Hitler had gone ahead with his plans to rebuild Berlin here. This would have been overshadowed by the surrounding government buildings. So increasing the overall height would have meant that it would be more visible despite the surrounding buildings. Immediately after the war, this was in the British sector of occupation in West Berlin. Pretty much the whole Tiergarten was, and the neighbourhoods of Charlottenburg and that. But the French commandos actually wanted to blow this up as a big celebrations on Bastille Day in 1946. But the other occupying powers wouldn't let them. The argument was just, enough destruction done already, and that it's a beautiful structure and that. But the French commandos did take part in the structure. The green images around the base depict the Battle of Sedan. This was a defeat for the French military in the Franco-Prussian War. The actual leader of France at the time, Napoleon III, was captured alive at the Battle of Sedan. So this was considered particularly embarrassing, a reminder to Germans of past glories. So the French took this, and it was only given back to Berlin as a gift in 1987 to be real. And as you can see, there's whole sections missing for it. They're just unaccounted for. They could have been destroyed during the war. They could still be in storage in Paris where these were stored while the French were holding them. And we don't really know for sure. The only other thing that really remains of Hitler's grand plan to rebuild Berlin after the war is these guardhouses and walls around here. A lot of guidebooks in that claim that these are the only remaining structures in Berlin designed by Albert Speer, which is personal architect. And of course we have a great laugh in because Albert Speer with his grand vision to rebuild Berlin. All that's left now is some public toilets inside. But for most accounts, this is one of his proteges, one of his students actually designed this. But it is true that it is the only thing that remains of Hitler's grand plan to rebuild Berlin. That and because Berlin is very soft and swampy soil, they wanted to test one of the pillars they would need to build one of the most grand structures Hitler had planned. What was going to be called the People's Hall, this massive domed building that would comfortably seat over 100,000 people for massive Nazi party rallies. But with Berlin being so soft and swampy, they wanted to test how much would one of the pillars sink on Berlin's soil. So they placed the equivalent weight of one of those pillars in the field southwest of Berlin. It's still there. It's called the Schwerlastkörper, the heavyweight structure. And the idea was, if it sunk about 2 inches, that was okay. They could build on that, and it sunk about a foot or so in the first couple of years that they placed it there. And that so many of these grand plans Hitler would have wanted to build would not have been capable at the time. They would not have been able to build a structure like that on top of Berlin's soft and swampy soil. And again here, you can see bullet and shrapnel damage right around here. And as well, while swastikas have been removed from almost all structures, there's only a few small remaining swastikas on the facades, buildings around Berlin. You can see the Reichsadler, the style of eagle the Nazis used on the pots here as well. So there's that left as well. The other big example is we've seen the Air Force Ministry, but Tempelhof Airport as well. It was one of the first purpose-built airport terminal buildings in the world. That is very typical Nazi architecture, and it's also covered in these Reichsadlers, the eagles here, which you can see that the swastikas, the plinths, where the swastikas would have been up and have nothing there. They're empty like plinths, and other platforms where there would have been swastikas that have been removed there. Guys, when you're ready, when you've got enough pictures on that, we'll head on, we'll cycle around here through the 2 sets of traffic lights, and then we'll cut through the park to the Reichstag building.